Hi there YouTube, Steven here. Coming to you today from a different location. Obviously, I'm at the bike shop that I work at. Obviously, I won't be smoking a pipe because if I do, I'll set off the fire alarm and then I'll get a visit from the nice firemen and they'll give me a stern warning for setting off the alarm, which is a big no-no here. So I learned a long time ago, don't double toast your bagels because they'll come for a visit. So I have my pipe here, my beautiful OMS Dublin Fieldmaster, I think it is, loaded with a couple of wrenches, just to show you where I'm at. So anyway, pipe goes away. I am doing a video response for someone that had a pretty interesting contest or challenge or just a request. So Naomi Hamilton had on her channel, and her channel, by the way, is Sunflower, but it's AH and then exclamation point and then sunflower. She had a pretty interesting idea. She said, ask her a question in the comments and she'll make a video answering your question, and then she'll ask you a question and you can do a video, and it's a good way to get to know each other. So she answered my question and she asked me to do a video about my bicycle touring. So I was going to bring out my touring bike and sit in the yard and this and that, and it just never did happen. I've made a couple of videos the last few days, and I thought I'd come to the bike shop and do it. So I just got off work. Obviously, little Sam Adams Oktoberfest. Cheers. So anyway, check out Naomi's channel. One of the first, after she subbed me, one of the first videos that I watched, she does a cover. She's a musician, an artist, a poet, a pipe smoker, and just an all-around interesting person. And when she first subbed me, I went to her channel, and she does a cover of Leonard Cohen, the Blue Raincoat, and I've watched it probably 10 times. I just love it. Actually, we just watched it here in the shop when I told him I was going to be doing a video. So anyway, check her out, and yeah, let's get to it. Some information about my bike touring. I've never done a cross-country tour, world tour, or anything like that, but I have done quite a few bike tours. Most notable is I live in Iowa, and in Iowa we have a bike ride called RAGBRAI. Our local newspaper is called the Register. So they sponsored 47 years ago. I'd have to look it up. They sponsored a bike ride. And so it's called the Register's Annual Great Bike Ride Across Iowa, which is, the acronym is RAGBRAI. So anyway, RAGBRAI is the oldest, the largest, and the longest bicycle tour in the world. It's been going on, like I say, over 45 years, or right around 45 years. They cut off the registration, I think, at 10,000, and usually about 10,000 more day riders and hangers on. People just show up. So it's a rolling party of about 10 to 15 to sometimes 20,000 people, depending on the towns. And it goes all the way across Iowa from west to east, right around 500 miles depending on how they go. Hits all the small towns. You get to see what we call Iowa nice, you know, people coming out, you know, sprinkling you. It's in August, or I'm sorry, it's in July. It's very hot here, and people come out with sprinklers, and they come out with cold water and drinks. There's all kinds of vendors, there's all kinds of food, and it's just a great time. And I did 10 of those. So I've been across Iowa by bicycle 10 times. Now that, I would call that light touring. I was riding a road bike, a racing bike, because I was young and thought I was fast, so carried very little with me. We would get to the start town by bus with a charter, and then they take your bags and things. You sleep overnight in a tent, and then you get your stuff all together and you take it to a truck. They truck it to the next overnight town. So you carry very little. You know, I had a little seat bag and some cash, and that was all you needed. Back then, pre-cell phone, you know, you didn't even carry a phone with you. You might have a little camera, but that's all you really carried. And your job was to get from overnight to overnight, and between 45 and 75 miles a day average. You know, they always have a century day, they have a 100-mile day. It's a loop, you can take an optional loop. But yeah, it's tons of fun. I tell everybody that every Iowan should be required by law to do RAGBRAI once, and it's just you get to see all these small towns, the larger cities as well, and just see Iowa by the seat of a bicycle. It's a great way to see the state and feel it at a slower pace than driving a car. So yeah, I've done 10 of those. Had a great time doing them. I think they're in my past. Every now and again, we talk about a group of us getting back together and doing it, but for now, that's on hold. So, RAGBRAI. Quite a few years ago, I did a self-supported ride on my. I've got a Surly long haul trucker. It's got front and rear panniers or bags, handlebar bag. I can carry my tent, my sleeping bag, my food, all the things I need, bike tools and things. I carry everything on the bike, completely self-supported. And I did a ride. There's a trail in Missouri, the state that's south of us, and the ride or the trail is called the Katy Trail. I believe it's 280 miles one way. I did the middle third, which they say is the most beautiful. It runs right along the Missouri River, so most of the ride I did, uh, you've got the sandstone bluffs on one side and the Missouri River on the other side. And it's a beautiful place. I went late in the season. I went the end of September, very early October. So a lot of the amenities were closed up, but it's something if you ever, if you're interested, go online and look Katy Trail, Katy Trail. I stayed at a place, a tiny, tiny town called Tibbetts, and they have a hostel there. There's a key on a pole across the street. You take the key, you let yourself in, you give a little donation, and there's probably 40 beds on 2 floors. I was in one. There was another couple, a few beds down, and that was it. There's nobody else there. It's got showers. It's got a little kitchenette. It's got a beautiful deck on the top where I cook my food. Just a fantastic time. I really, really enjoyed it. Now, the other couple, unfortunately, they didn't have any food, so they had to go out of town looking for, I think it was a Subway. And I'm cooking my beans and rice and sausage and having a gourmet dinner. But the best part was that night it poured rain, just poured rain. And being that I was camping, I was inside and I was nice and dry and warm, and it was fantastic. They have some interesting things. They have a thing called boat henge, kind of like Stonehenge, but it's a bunch of boats arranged, dropped into the ground, so it's very much like Stonehenge, but they're boats. Being it's right along the river, and there's a cool bait shop, cafe kind of place. I stopped there. Try to think of all the things. I've got some notes here, but yeah, just a really cool ride. And I did that one by myself. I was riding along and I met a lady. She was riding along alone, and we started chatting. And she said it was her birthday. She said I come out every year and I ride a section of this on my birthday. So we kept talking and we riding along and had a great time. And we decided to ride the whole day together. And when the day was coming to an end, of course, I would have went off and looked for a campsite. She would have went back to her car, but there was a scenic overlook restaurant. I wouldn't even call it a cafe. It was a restaurant, and you went up this huge stairway. There was a place to lock your bikes at the bottom. And got up to the top. There's a beautiful restaurant, and we went up there, her and I told her I'd buy her lunch. And there was another couple that was on a tandem. They met with us, and we sat down. We had a wonderful lunch. It was one of those things. I knew her first name and she knew my first name, and we had a birthday lunch, and we rode to the next town. She bought me an ice cream bar. We kind of said cheers and thanks for the wonderful day, and she rode off and I rode off. And it's just those kind of experiences in bike touring that it's priceless, and it made my whole trip. I was riding alone, and you meet somebody you can chat with for a while, and it was a lot of fun. So anyway, bikes, obviously, where I'm sitting here at the bike shop, this is what I do for a living. My hands are actually, I did go down and kind of wash them, but I'm a greasy-fingered mechanic here at the bike shop. Done this for 25 years, and I've been working on bikes and riding bikes my whole life. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Quite a few years ago, after I had gotten divorced, living in an apartment on my own, and I noticed my car, because I rode to work every day, and I noticed my car sat there. It was 8 months without registration. I just let the plates expire because I wasn't driving it. And finally, after 8 or 9 months, I thought, why do I have this car if I'm not going to drive the thing? And should I just sell it? So I went out on a limb, and of course, live in the United States, and here in Iowa, we're a very car-centered type lifestyle. Everything's too far away. But I noticed that I lived within probably a 10 or 15 mile radius of my apartment. And I shopped, and I went to movies, and I went to work, and everything I needed was within biking distance. I got all my groceries by bike. If I really needed a load of groceries, I've got a Burley bike trailer, a cargo trailer, and I'd load that up with groceries. I never had any instance that I couldn't get somewhere by bike. Someone invites you to a dinner party or get together, a potluck, you get on the bike and you go. And David Byrne from the Talking Heads, who's an extremely avid cyclist, he had a great quote. He says, sometimes you just arrive shiny, meaning you're a little bit sweaty, and that's okay. I learned to just be that way. And the people I hung out with were all cyclists anyway, so it worked out. So I went car-free, sold my car, went car-free for 3 years. And it was 3 of the best years of my life. I was very fit. I was not like I am now, but I was very fit. I was very able. I rode year-round, and in Iowa, when it's cold, it's real cold. I believe the coldest day, I kind of forced myself to do this, I rode to work when it was 12 below Fahrenheit. Had goggles on, had a face mask on. It was very cold, scary cold actually, and I made it. And I rode to work many, many days in the snow that's deep enough that you don't think you're going to make it. And when you get to work, you're just in a great feeling that, wow, I made it and cars aren't making it. Cars are getting stuck and I made it right through. It's hard, but I did it. Finally, after a while, started getting a little older. I crashed 5 times on the way home one winter night. I decided my winter cycling was done. And then got married to Louisa, and we wanted to go lots of places that we couldn't go by bike. So we bought a van, and I don't bike as much. And I haven't even been biking to work. And that's something that's been kind of a topic of conversation with me, with my coworkers, with my wife, my sons. I need to get back on the bike. So, sooner or later it'll happen. Sometimes you need to take a little time off. Been heavily into hiking, and I think that's good enough for right now. So anyway, I did do I did a lot of mountain bike racing when I was younger, and I only won one race. I was in a place called Medora, North Dakota, and I did a race, and only 2 of the hundreds of people in the race had to weigh in because we were what's called the Clydesdale class, if you're over 200 pounds. Most bike racers aren't over 200 pounds. So, pardon me, we had to weigh in. So I did my race. There's all these competitors, different, brackets and groups and whatnot. And I come across the line and they said, "You won." I said, "Wow." I pull off. I'm all excited. They said, "Oh, wait. The guy behind you weighs more than you, so he's got a time advantage." So we had to watch the clock run down, and I, in fact, did win. I've got a little trophy at home called the Rattlesnake Revenge Bike Race, and yeah, I won. It was pretty cool. It was in the Badlands of the Dakotas, and it was hot and beautiful. So that was a good time. So I did a bunch of mountain bike racing. I never was real good at it, but I always said I wanted to finish and have fun, and I always did that. So hazards, riding a bike. Been hit twice in my life. Got hit when I was a younger kid, hit by a drunk driver. I wasn't injured. He stumbled out and, "Oh, you're okay," and he got in the car and left. A few years ago here, riding home on a beautiful Friday, sun shining, perfect day. I stop at a 4-way stop. Lady stops. I look at her. I think we make eye contact. I start to roll out. Bang! She hits me and puts me on the ground. So bent my bike up a little bit. Had somebody pick it up, and I was a little bit stressed, so I ended up walking home. And yeah, she was sweet enough to take care of the expenses on my bike, and I really appreciated that. It's that's why it's called an accident. She didn't try and hit me. She was just thinking about something else, and just 10 houses or so from her house at the intersection, and hit me. So it could have been worse, but there's an old saying that there's 2 kinds of cyclists: the ones that've been hit, the ones that are gonna get hit. And if you ride a bike, keep that in mind, because people don't see you. They'll run you over real easy. So yeah, let's see, talked about riding in deep snow. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've done some tours around northern Iowa. I'd leave home, take off. I did a 5-day trip around northern Iowa, camped out every time. I like to go self-supported. I carry all my gear and I camp and I cook and I just have a great time. I got a book and now I got a pipe and sitting around a campfire or your tent having a book and a pipe is about as good as it gets. And maybe even a little whiskey now and again. So anyway, that's my video. Naomi, I love your channel. Sorry I'm so late on this, but you know, life gets in the way sometimes. But anyway, take care, guys. I'm going to finish my beer and I'm going to go home and have dinner. So we'll see y'all.